January is finally coming to an end, and that means I'm going to be doing the first video of my yearly review of watching every VHS tape that's on my shelf that I haven't seen before. It's what I'm calling the VHS Resolution. It's a little play on words there. And yeah, let's get started. I watched 15 movies, 2 of which I did not own. Yeah, let's get started. The very first movie that's on my shelf is actually a pretty decent start to our movie marathon. 1941, a war comedy with an all-star cast, honestly, and directed by Steven Spielberg. Based in, 1941, after the attack on Pearl Harbor, it follows multiple protagonists as they try to survive and thrive a Japanese submarine attack. Notice how I said multiple protagonists? Nothing out of the ordinary, but man, it gets messy. It's not confusing, and I understood each storyline, but we might see a character in minute 20 and might not see the rest of their story until an hour and 30 minutes in. That's another thing. I think it's just a bit too long. There's definitely some scenes that could have been compressed, but it does get very enjoyable seeing Dan Aykroyd, Belushi, and John Candy do their thing, and seeing this jagoff get tortured by eggs. Not a bad movie at all. Had some laughs, it just wasn't perfect. 3 out of 5. Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. So I really only watched one Abbott and Costello related thing before. It's the 7 times 13 equals 28-bit. I think it's hilarious. It's a 4-minute clip and been watching it for years. So I was pretty interested to see if this movie was going to give off the same energy and comedy. And as much as I wish to say it was, I still enjoyed the watch. I got some chuckles in the beginning, but after they get to the island, I think it just drags on too long. It was definitely cool seeing horror legends play their original roles again, and seeing them interact. Also, yeah, title is a bit misleading. Not only do they not meet Frankenstein, they meet Frankenstein's monster, and Dracula, and the Wolfman, and even some sequel bait with the Invisible Man, cameoed by Vincent Price.
Believe me that I saw it. Oh, relax. Now that we've seen the last of Dracula, the Wolfman, and the monster, there's nobody to frighten us anymore.
Oh, that's too bad. I was hoping to get in on the excitement.
Who said that?
Allow me to introduce myself. I'm the Invisible Man.
Pretty cool. 3 out of 5. It's been a long time since I've seen the original, but I remember loving it. This one, well, I went into it knowing it was going to be a cash grab sequel. So how was it then? A cash grab sequel. There was a lot of background gags that I thought were pretty bizarre and funny, but a lot of the movie is repetitive. That's really all I can say about it. It's got some pretty cool references and semi-funny jokes, but it's just not it.
Ted, listen to me. We've lost the crew and Simon's turned to jelly.
It can get boring, and I'd rather just watch the original, honestly. The whole movie is just repeating jokes that the first one already made, and unfortunately, a lot of sequels do that.
I don't mean to sound forward. I mean, I know I don't know you. But I don't think we're gonna live through this. And I've never been with a man before.
It reminds me a bit of Caddyshack 2. It's just banking off the original with half the original cast and double the wackiness, which doesn't work out very well. 2.5 out of 5.
There's more, but I'm sure you'd all be bored by it.
Oh, no. Continue.
Airport 1975. I couldn't take this movie seriously because of the way it's filmed. Or, I should say, how well the comedy movie Airplane was filmed. It makes this movie a serious action drama feel like a punchline is going to pop out any second. What doesn't help is that George Kennedy is in this movie, who is in the Naked Gun series, which stars Leslie Nielsen, and Leslie Nielsen is in Airplane. So having a future Naked Gun co-star in this movie, I expect Nielsen to pop up and make fart jokes and then the plane explodes. Speaking of exploding, the whole reason the plane is in danger is because a private aircraft crashes into a Boeing, yet the only damage is a big-ass hole in the cockpit. And then after the mannequin flies out of the hole, the stewardess makes contact over the radio while standing in the cockpit with the hole still there, and she's just standing there without any issues. A little bit later, the plane goes around 14,000 feet, but when the stewardess makes the call, they're still above clouds, so shouldn't she be sucked out of the plane and turned into jello? Either way, I found out later that this is a sequel to the 1979 movie Airport. I doubt these movies are very connected, so the original Airport won't be in this review, but learning that it's a sequel, it makes a lot of sense when it comes to the goofiness and B-movie cheese, and I have no doubt this movie influenced Airplane. What else? Oh yeah, Linda Blair is in this flick, which, that reminds me, small complaint. The whole beginning of this movie is establishing how this little girl needs a kidney transplant, but besides some pan shots, she isn't really shown most of the movie, which, it's whatever, but if they're making sure the audience know that this little girl needs to be safe, they shouldn't let us forget that she exists. 2.5 out of 5.
No, wait, you're a jerk.
American Pie. This movie is awful. I had genuine flashbacks from when I was watching the National Lampoon movies. American Pie I hate especially because this is the movie that popularized the 2000 sex romp plague. Obviously there were sex romp movies before it, but in the 2000s, with this god-awful poster trend, they were everywhere. Not only was it not funny, it was just lame, or maybe that's the joke. You're laughing at nerds trying to have sex, but I guess it's humorous, except this movie executes it terribly. I don't know. If you enjoy this movie, that's fine, but I don't enjoy it very much. The band girl and the dad were probably the only enjoyable moments in this movie. Also, they don't even play American Pie in the movie, which I get it, it's a copyrighted song, and they probably don't want to pay the royalties for it, but they trademarked the title of the song in the credits, so you might as well just pay the extra whatever cash amount to put the song in the movie. It doesn't make any sense. 1.5 out of 5. American President. I despise politics. But you know what a good movie does? A good movie makes you care. And despite me hating the most mundane thing ever, it made me care about the people and the governmental story in this movie. More importantly, it was cute. Michael Douglas does a fantastic job playing president in this romantic plot about falling in love. Michael J. Fox is also fantastic, and the girl who plays Sydney is just amazing. It can drag a bit, but this was a very enjoyable movie. 3.5 out of 5.
Move 'em on. Hit 'em up. Hit 'em up. Move 'em on. Move 'em on. Hit 'em up. Rawhide.
American Tail. I thought the first one was decent, but this one I enjoyed much more. The animation was very pleasing to look at, and I love Western stories, so that's a plus. I think the only complaint is the pacing. I know it's animation, so you can't just add more scenes, but some story plots just kind of happened, and then we went on to the next one. 3.5 out of 5. Amityville Horror 2: The Possession. Amityville 2 is the first movie that I'm watching that I don't actually own. Part of my rule of watching the movies before the sequel thing. Anywho, I dreaded watching any of the Amityville Horror sequels, and the first one was just really boring, and that's why I dreaded it so much. But you know, Amityville 2 was actually good. Better than the first one, despite what people say. The only problem is that it can get really slow. It had very good special effects, especially the ending. A house randomly blowing up, and this one was actually unsettling and scary. I mean, they were this close to showing a 5-year-old getting shot. It's creepy. What cuts the cake is the acting from Sonny. He has this beautiful, creepy smile, and he just stares into your soul. The thing that really ruins this movie, the cheesiness. The beginning has Paulie from Rocky, Burt Young, beat his family because the house is shaking, but he blames it on his kids, and then he gets his belt out and stuff like that. I suppose you could say it's the spirits making the family dysfunctional and all that, but it just came off as very goofy. However, I believe every shitty movie has that one moment. That one moment where it flips completely around, turns the table, and becomes a masterpiece. The best example being Surf Nazis Must Die. The moment in Surf Nazis is where the grenade scene comes on. Everything before that sucks, but the moment that grenade lands on the screen, the rest of the movie is really enjoyable. Same with this movie. First half is kind of boring, setting up characters with incest plots, but the moment Sonny starts killing the family, it becomes a different movie, a better movie. Despite it being a spoof / ripoff of The Exorcist, and despite its flaws, I think I'm honestly going to do a 4 out of 5. Amityville 3D. They blew up the house again, and nothing else really happens, especially for a supernatural movie. There'll be a scene where a lady catches on fire, and then the characters are walking around for 15 minutes. They play with a Ouija board, then they walk around for 15 minutes. The daughter drowns. Oh, wait, what? The daughter drowned? Oh, well, what a shame. Oh yeah, here's the climax. One might say that's, well, story development. It's just done really bad. Also, for advertising itself as 3D, which was the craze in the 80s, there really wasn't that many 3D shots. 2.5 out of 5. Amityville Horror Escapes. You must be wondering, how do they make a follow-up to a movie when the previous one showed the house blowing up? Well, that's easy. You ignore it. Yep, the house is completely intact, and an army of priests come in to make sure that all the evil is out. Except, guess what? The Jesus tree lamp is still evil. And that's how this movie is a sequel. Also, the acting is cartoonish. Here's an example.
She didn't go home. Her coat is in the closet. Who told you she went home? Daddy. No.
Wait, watch this. My God, what a movie. Have you ever seen Killer Sofa? No, of course you haven't. Well, this is Killer Lamp. Take Amityville out of the story, and it's a haunted lamp. That's it. It's so goofy and stupid, and I'm giving it a 3.5 because of it. Is it good? No, but it's good. If you know, you know. The Amityville Curse. Awful. Plain and simple. Nothing happens. Editing is just kind of wonk and funk. It's not scary, it's not suspenseful, and the characters are either unlikable or annoying. It's lame. 1 out of 5. Analyze this. Here's what I think my main problem with this movie is. It's written as a comedy. I hope that makes sense. A lot of this movie is played very deadpan, but it's also too goofy. A lot of mobster jokes are too exaggerated, and even though it got a couple laughs out of me, it just comes off as kind of awkward. The movie is trying too hard to get a laugh out. Billy Crystal was great, and so was Robert De Niro, of course, even if he has the fakest cry ever. 3 out of 5. Apocalypse Now. I think a lot of people will get mad at me for this, but this one just didn't do it for me. I'm not a war movie guy. I love learning about the war, but when it comes to movies, I'm usually the opposite of what reviews usually are. Schindler's List, Full Metal Jacket, Saving Private Ryan, they had many enjoyable and meaningful scenes, but the war genre just isn't for me. Apocalypse Now showed a lot of the terrifying and a lot of the shittiness of Vietnam. It even had an amazing cast that just made it feel even more real, but it just wasn't my kind of movie. Maybe it's one of those things where I need to rewatch it to truly understand it, but as of right now, it's a 3 out of 5. Apollo 13. From the same guy, believe it or not, who gave us a live-action How the Grinch Stole Christmas. That's not even a joke. We have a thrilling movie about the Apollo 13 space mission. I thought it was quite good. The special effects were great, and seeing the zero-gravity scenes were super fun. I don't think it's perfect, but it's still a very thrilling watch. 3.5 out of 5. Return of the Killer Tomatoes. I didn't like the first one very much, but the sequel amplifies the bizarreness and what I expected the first one to be more of. It even has young George Clooney. Here's an example of just how silly this movie is. This happens within 5 minutes of each other.
We've been avoiding it, but it's the 80s. I think it's time for product placement. Give me that beer. This generic stuff, you know, generic, it's not going to cut it. So I say product placement. It'll work. I think you should trust me on this.
Hey, that's a great idea, J.D.
Brand names.
Yeah.
Product placement.
Product placement.
All right, look. Trust, you don't pay the Actors Guild, but I don't have a choice right now,
Who
folks.
cares about the Actors Guild?
Folks, okay, folks, we're gonna make a movie. We're gonna go back into it. We're gonna see what we can do. Product.
I get myself a Pepsi-Cola.
Wow, a Pepsi-Cola.
Yeah, you know, it's the choice of a new generation.
Well, groovy, but I'm a little hungry, too.
Kind of hungry, I'll
Something
tell
to
you. Well, when I get a little hungry, I go out, I pick myself up a Nestle's Crunch Bar. Yeah, it scrunches when it crunches.
Wow, I'd heard that. Yeah. But I'm hungry for falafel. My God! It's Muammar Gaddafi! Ah, you lunatic!
Where's the fun at?
I think the only thing that's preventing me from giving it a higher score is the use of, funny enough, more tomatoes. I'm assuming this is how 3 and 4 are, but this movie would really benefit from shitty practical effect tomato faces. It's really begging for it. The comedy, though, is what keeps it running. The visual gags, the delivery, and the meta random humor is just perfect. And there's even a post-credits scene teasing the third movie.
There will be no movie tomorrow.
See you in France.
3.5 out of 5. Well, that's the January, I can't say it. Well, that is the January review. Rating all these movies, I feel really bad for rating Amityville 2 a 4. But remember, it would probably be a 3.5, but that extra 0.5 is really just a generous bonus. These weren't really a bad batch of movies, and a lot of them were quite enjoyable. I don't really know how to end this video, but all I have to say is thank you, and stay tuned for next month. Adios.